No one saw this coming. We have an Islanders trade update as trade rumors are heating up around one of their centers, and what's really interesting here is the other team involved. In addition, the Islanders have been linked to a top KHL free agent. We're going to break it all down on this episode of Islanders Digest, but before we do that, I want to thank all of you who have already subscribed to the channel. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers before the NHL draft, and we are so close to hitting it. We can actually hit it today if those of you who have not yet subscribe to the channel. So thank you so much to those you already have. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Join this Islanders community for more Islanders content just like this. With that, let's get right into these rumors. And today we're focused around Jean Gabriel Pageau. Stefan Rosner has tweeted that the Bruins have been added to the list of teams that are interested in Pageau. And what's really interesting about this is that the Bruins are interested at all. Looking at the Bruins, and if you're a Bruin fan watching this video because you saw the Bruins jersey in the thumbnail, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Islanders really look like a team that's in a similar position to the Bruins, where realistically they should be either standing pat or doing absolutely nothing. So it's definitely interesting. The Bruins are interested in Pageau. I do know they need more centers, and Pageau is a really good fit for a depth center. But I also feel like the Bruins are a team that's more in need of a top center. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that. Still, when it comes to Pageau, there is a lot that he does provide, and it makes sense that a lot of teams are interested in him. And for Islander fans, why it's really exciting that the Bruins are interested is if a team like the Bruins is interested in Pageau, then so many more teams are going to be interested as well. Pageau is a player that seems really valuable for a contending team, a team that desperately needs a third-line center that is really going to provide shutdown defense and also provide some key offense in the playoffs. But if you can get teams like the Bruins and other teams that are kind of in the same position as the Islanders also interested in him, that's how you develop a bidding war, and that's how you really get the best possible return for Pageau. Considering his 42 points last year, that return can be a lot higher than we thought it would be in previous seasons. There was a time, honestly, with Pageau where the Islanders probably could not give him away for free if they tried with that $5 million cap hit, but now it's the last season of that deal, and the way he played last year, he was worth every penny, really. I know $5 million is a lot of money for a defensive third-line center, but putting up 42 points, 14 goals, but really also playing shutdown defense, providing some of the best face-off metrics in the entire NHL. It's a player who has a lot of value, especially to a contender, which again is why it's interesting that the Bruins are interested. Ideally, you want a second round pick at least for Pageau. You probably want a little more, especially if you're moving him now. I've actually made the argument it makes more sense to trade him at the deadline when the offers are going to be the highest. But if teams like the Bruins and other teams who are likely not going to be in it are interested right now, and they could potentially build up the price, and the Islanders could potentially get something like either 2 second-round picks or a second-round pick and a second-round level prospect, then they should 100% pull the trigger here if they can get a value that they think is fair, because again, you're taking a risk when it comes to going to the trade deadline with a player. Pageau can get hurt, he can have a bad year, so if the value is there, I think the Islanders should pounce, especially considering that the value likely will be there because the center market is a lot worse than we thought it was going to be. When I last made my video about JG Pageau, I was under the impression that it would be better to move him at the trade deadline just because you wouldn't be able to get proper value at this year's draft or during the offseason. And what I fail to consider is really how terrible this center market is this year in the NHL. At the top, you have John Tavares, which us Islander fans all know who John Tavares is. He's more of a second-line center option. And even then, the Toronto Maple Leafs are likely to keep John Tavares, really weakening this market even further. In addition, Michael Granlund is expected to potentially stay in Dallas. Sam Bennett should stay in Florida. We'll see. There might be some movement there. Don't really see him going anywhere else. And right there, beyond that, after that, this center market really takes a jump off a cliff. Really, not on this list because it is based on previous salary and not based on who the best players are, is Pius Suter, who can be a really valuable third-line center. And whatever team gets him is going to be really happy. But any team that misses out on him is going to be even more desperate for center help. In addition, I forgot to mention, with the Toronto Maple Leafs, even though they likely going to keep John Tavares as their second-line center, they're probably desperate for a third-line center as well, especially after Scott Laughton did not have a great time playing with them. They likely want to go in a different direction. And because of this, you have so many different options. If the Islanders can get the right price for JG Pageau, they 100% should pull the trigger. And I think they're going to have an easier time getting that price they want than I initially thought going into the offseason. However, you still have to consider the Islanders roster next season, which is why perhaps it might not be the best idea to trade Pageau, at least not now. Looking at this depth chart, the Islanders do not have the same center depth that they used to. Yes, Matt Barzal can play center, but if you're separating him and Horvat, unless you're bringing in a key player who can play top 6 minutes, which we're going to be talking about when it comes to their KHL, the KHL player they are linked to at the end of this video, but unless you're bringing in a guy like that, this top 6 is not deep enough to really have Barzal and Horvat play separately. Without Pageau, you really don't have another option unless you're putting Casey Ziquez or Callum Ritchie, a rookie, at second line center. Again, I think Callum Ritchie has the potential to be more than an average average second line center in the NHL when he develops. But next season, just throwing him in there after playing in the OHL is not a great idea. And while you could stomach him playing a few weeks there at the deadline, a full season of Callum Ritchie or Casey Ziquez as your second line center, or a full season of Horvat and Barzal playing separately with wingers that really can't add to their skills, sounds like a pretty disastrous situation for the Islanders, which is why it's really going to depend on what they can do. Because again, as we've looked at the rest of the center market, while it's bad for the other teams, which gives the Islanders a big advantage when it comes to trading Pageau for more value, it's also bad in the sense that if you trade him, it's going to be more difficult to replace him. Really, the only player on this list that I would even consider for the New York Islanders is a player like Trent Frederick, or maybe a player like Cody Glass if he is dropped by the Devils. But even then, really not a great center market for the New York Islanders, which is why you have to consider that too when it comes to trading JG Pageau. Because the Islanders' plan is to ice a competitive roster next season. How competitive that roster is going to be, we'll see. And I think one player that can really help that roster be more competitive is Maxim Shabanov. The Islanders have finally been linked to Shabanov. They were linked to him last season, and then once Lou Lamoriello was let go, things got really quiet. Some of the teams believed to be the front runner for Shabanov are currently the Philadelphia Flyers, and I believe also the Pittsburgh Penguins. Also, teams like the Vegas Golden Knights are always inquiring. Although I think when it comes to Shabanov, a team like the Islanders, Flyers, or Penguins makes more sense, just because looking at a roster like the Islanders, there's more opportunity. And even with the Islanders, there's going to be competition. You're not just be given a top 6 spot. Realistically, you can see yourself working up to one. Interestingly, last year the Islanders actually brought in Russian prospect Maxim Shabanov, and he actually had a pretty decent year, though it has been up and down at points. Shabanov is actually 2 years younger than Shabanov, and that's really where the similarities end. I know they're both Russian, they both play in the KHL, but they are really two different types of players. Shabanov is more of a flashy stick handler. You just watch some of his highlights. He has some of the best hands I've really seen in a while. Something like this would be incredible for the Islanders to land, and I think there's a good chance the Islanders could bring him over just because there's such a good fit with him on the roster. And again, the Islanders also have several other Russian prospects. While they are late in this game, would not be surprised if Matthew Barzal is able to bring in Shabanov, and that would be a really good first move to really put his first stamp on this team. Looking at his stats in the KHL last season, 67 points, 23 goals, 44 assists. He is more of a passer than a scorer, as Shabanov is more of a scorer. Although, in general, for the Islanders, when it comes to this roster, adding any sort of talent is a need at this point. I know Shabanov is a bit smaller at 5'8", although with the Islanders, again, the issue is not the size. It's not the grit this team plays with. You watch the Islanders every single night, and they just don't have enough skill to really do anything with the puck. It's hard to watch at points. The heart is there. We know that. They've been competitive in playoff races, largely due to players like Pageau, who, while they don't put up the most points, just play with their hearts every single night. The skill is not there, and Shabanov brings a skill that would be very valuable to the New York Islanders, and I think this would be a really good fit. If there's a bigger link in the next few days, or there's more of a tie that says the Islanders are highly likely to get him, we'll definitely talk about him in more detail, but I'm hoping the Islanders can bring this player in, because it would also make next season way more exciting. Right now, the thing I'm most excited about next year is watching Callum Ritchie play, and if we can add another rookie to this Islanders team, realistically, the Bridgeport Islanders are not ready. All the other prospects should take another year in college. Adding another player who can play a rookie season for the Islanders in Shabanov would be huge. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Would you like to see them bring in Shabanov? And would you like the Islanders to trade JG Pageau? And if so, what do you think would be a fair return for the Islanders to get back? Love to know your thoughts in the comments below. As you know, I love having hockey conversations with you guys in the comments. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. I'll catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.